Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah Macintyre. How are you doing? So I wanted to talk today about an experience that I had at a demonstration on Thursday, but actually isn't my first time of having that experience. And it's such a learning to go through for all developing mediums. So when you are doing audience readings, but also actually sometimes when you're doing one-on-one sittings, but I'll come back to that hopefully if I remember. But when you're doing audience readings, you've got a group of people gathered and you get a spirit through that is so clear to you, and yet nobody in the audience responds. And as a developing medium and as someone that goes to see and watch a lot of mediums because I just can't get enough, one of the things that I have seen is when mediums can't get that spirit taken, they will send it away. And sometimes I have seen mediums make jokes about it. Oh, you've come to the wrong medium, wrong show, wrong space, there's nobody here for you, ha ha ha, off you go, and send them off. And it's such a difficult thing to do because when you're in that space of complete vulnerability and you've got a room full of people looking at you and they all look really serious and they're staring and you've got this spirit there and no one can take it, you feel a bit foolish and you feel a bit embarrassed. But one of the greatest things that you can do, in my opinion, is never send that spirit away, and finish your job with them. And that is so much easier said than done. It's so much easier to imply that the spirit world have got it wrong in some way and send that spirit away rather than hold that space for the spirit world. But that's what I'm going to ask you to do. When I saw the medium that I saw make a joke and send the spirit away and tell them they'd got the wrong medium and ha ha ha, and everybody in the audience laughed, I came away feeling really, really sad because I know that that medium that I saw is amazing. They're a fantastic, fantastic medium. And I also know that the spirit world are infinitely more intelligent and clever and knowing than any human on earth. They don't make mistakes. The spirit world do not get it wrong. We get it wrong, the spirit world don't. And I just came away from that situation thinking how sad it was that that spirit had come in and tried to communicate and that they'd been sent away, but they'd not only been sent away, but they'd been sent away as a bit of a joke. It was a bit like a ha ha ha, you know, oopsie, you've got it wrong, bye. But actually that was somebody's grandmother. That was somebody's grandmother who was trying to make contact. And if you are a demonstrating medium, one of the greatest things I think you can do is go and have the experience of sitting in an audience because it's interesting. I love standing in front of an audience and demonstrating. It's my favourite thing to do. It's my favourite thing to work with. It's great. But when I'm in the audience and there's a medium and they are communicating with somebody, it makes me nervous. And I sit there all anxious thinking, is that for me? That sounds like my aunt. Is it my aunt? Oh my God, is it my aunt? I don't know. Would it be my aunt? That could be. And there's almost a relief for me when a bit of evidence is given that I can't take and I know it's not for me. And I think that's an important process for you as a medium to go through, because actually doing that myself made me realise how hard it is to be in an audience. So let me tell you what happened on Thursday night. On Thursday night, it was all going swimmingly. In fact, it was one of my favourite nights. It was just, the audience were laughing, the evidence was great, I was in a flow, I was having fun, I was really enjoying it. I wish that everyone could be like that. And then halfway through, when I'm right in this, I know I'm in my good energy, I know it's working, I get a spirit of a little baby boy. And that little baby boy was communicating with me. Now, one of the things that you have to learn to do as a medium is get your human rules and regulations out of your mind. So it's fascinating when you communicate with a baby, because they communicate, in my experience, exactly the same as an adult human communicates when they have passed. I don't know why I said the word human there. But you know what I mean. They all communicate the same. There's no difference. So spirit don't speak to us, is my interpretation of this. What happens is spirits send us an energy that we interpret, and sometimes we interpret it as words, sometimes it's pictures, sometimes it's just knowing, and that's the energy you're in. But it's very, very rare to get real, true clairaudience where it's separate from you and it hears like somebody else speaking. So I think what happens is they're sending that energy and we're interpreting it, and sometimes it's a collaboration. So they know the best way for us to receive a piece of information is smell, so we will smell it, and sometimes they send the energy and we filter it through how we are receiving it. So babies and small children that shouldn't be able to talk can communicate exactly the same, in my experience, as adults. And so this little boy came in, and I knew that he was born at full term or near enough full term. I knew that he died after being born. I knew that there was a blue teddy at his resting place with him. I knew that it was about 25 years ago, and I knew that his mum had been talking to him. There's a picture of him out on a mantelpiece, and she communicates with him every day. I knew he was a firstborn. I knew that he had siblings born after he passed. So I got quite a lot of information. I may have also got a name. You don't remember it all, but there was enough there, and nobody could take it. And there's always that moment when that happens where you want to save face, if you're honest, and you want to say, okay, no one can take it. Okay, then, thank you very much, and give up and move on to the next one because it feels torturous. But as luck would have it, it just didn't feel like an option to me. And I carried on working with him, and I got more and more evidence, and still nobody could take it. And people were very upset in the audience, and when I did Q&A at the end, people were asking, is he a stuck spirit, is he trapped, is he upset? And I was answering all of that, and I just said we've got to just trust that his message is going to reach his mum. I knew he was trying to reach his mum. And then at the end, as always, people come up to say hello, have a photo, all those kind of things that they want to do, and tell me what the messages meant to them, which I really, really love when that happens, because it just makes you feel like you've touched some lives, which is what it's all about, isn't it? And a lady stood in the queue and said to me, it was my friend's son. She was in the audience, but she was too upset. She's outside in the car park sobbing. She was too upset. She couldn't put her hand up, and now she's devastated. And I asked her to try and get her friend to come in, and she did. And I put my arms around that woman, and she was sobbing. She was releasing so much sorrow. And she's waited all that time to hear from her son. She's waited all that time, all those years of talking to him every day and talking to his picture and being so absolutely heartbroken and hoping that he was there, but not knowing that he was there. And if I had done what I wanted to do in honesty, which was stopped it, moved on, cracked a joke, I would have deprived her of that, knowing that he has seen her and he is there. And that knowing that he has not missed a second of their time together. He's been with her ever since. And I wouldn't have done my job properly for him either. And as you can tell, it's made me quite emotional, this one, because it was such a learning for me in that. Because when you watch a lot of, because I've seen this happen a lot with mediums, and when you see that happen a lot, you kind of, you start to think that maybe you've got it wrong. And I'm so grateful to the spirit world for that lesson, because I now know that I will never, ever send a spirit away. So what I did was I carried on working with him until he felt and I felt that I had given enough, and then I gave his message anyway. And I'm so bloody relieved that I did. I'm so glad that I did. And this has also happened before in a, for me, slightly less emotional one, because it was an email I received, but I did a demonstration and I got somebody's mum through, and it was a man in the audience, and he'd never been to see a medium, and he'd gone with his partner, didn't really believe, just went because she wanted him to, and his mum came through, who passed when he was a teenager. And again, you're looking at 20 years. And he emailed me afterwards and apologised, because he just was so shocked that she came through, and so blown away and so upset and so emotional that he couldn't raise his hand. And he was really worried that he'd let his mum down. And of course he hadn't, because she's there, she's with him, she just wanted him to know, and he does know. And I don't feel that spirits need to be acknowledged. I think spirits step forward in the most part, certainly for us, to let us know that they're around. And so his mum isn't moving into the spirit world feeling rejected like she would if she'd have come and knocked on his front door and he didn't answer it and she knew he was in, because she'll have been with him and seeing the process going on in him, and that feeling as he drove home and he knew that he hadn't put his hand up. And so I don't think there's ever any judgment from the spirit world. Equally, I don't think there's any judgment from the spirit world when spirits are sent away. I used to send spirits away because I didn't know any better. And when I first started, it's just, I've got a sound on my reels that I really want to use at some point, but I can't work out the images to go with it. But the sound is, you have to suck at something before you can be good at it. And I really feel that for mediumship. When I look back, when I was doing my little practice sessions and having people to my home and trying to do it, and I had that night when not one spirit was taken and I felt like an absolute freaking wally, I needed those experiences to be able to do what I can do now. And the only way that you can get those experiences is by doing. You can't wait to be good and then do it. You have to just do it and accept that you're going to learn. So I look back at poor Hannah crying her eyes out after a demonstration where she's done 13 links and not one's been taken, and wanting to give up. And I have to say, I go, good, learn what you need to learn. Because I don't want to be an okay medium. I want to be a good medium, and you have to have those lessons. I want to be good. So it's always difficult because, as you guys know who listen to this podcast all the time, we need the energy of a sitter to collaborate with a reading. You can see that. You can see that when you find the right person, the energy of a reading will shift and change. Although I have to be honest and say, I think on Thursday night I was fully on my power, cooking on gas as I call it. So I didn't need the sitters, and that was a lucky thing, I guess. But It doesn't mean that you shouldn't do the work. And it's just so important. I asked a teacher who was mentoring me about this once, and she said that by trying to find the recipient and taking a bit longer with the link than is ideal, I was in my ego, and I need to learn to move past that. And actually, I have to say, I completely disagree. Now, there's a line. I don't think in a demonstration setting that a medium should be working with a spirit for more than 12 minutes tops, because if you've got 100 people there and they're all waiting to hear from somebody, and you just work with somebody for half an hour of an hour and a half dem, it's not very fair on everybody else. I think we all understand that it's not going to go into the depth and the deepness, and it's not going to answer all of your questions necessarily, because it's about a quick hello. It's like a text message from the spirit world rather than a phone call. Does that make sense? So I think we have to accept that. That said, I think having sat in audiences sometimes, and I'm quick, I know that I'm fast with my evidence. I think sometimes you're still trying to process, you're still trying to think of everything. It's like playing Guess Who, and someone's giving you 12 bits of information at once and you're trying to flick down all the people. You're trying to work it out. And I think it's good sometimes to be determined. And the number of times that I have said, they're here for somebody, and everyone's gone, no. And I've stuck to my guns and I've dug my heels in, and then all of a sudden somebody will go, I think you're with me. And I'll say, what is it you don't understand? Why did you not put your hand up? What's your resistance? And they sometimes say, you wouldn't believe it, but sometimes they say, oh no, I understand everything. And everyone in the audience laughs. Sometimes they say, well, you've got this bit wrong. And I go, okay, that's okay. I can take that. Let's work out where I've gone wrong with it. And sometimes it's just not who they were expecting to hear from. If you've lost your dad and you go to a demonstration or your child, and you really want to hear from them, and the medium is talking to your grandfather or your great aunt, it's hard to get your head in a space where you can accept that evidence. And you have to trust in the spirit world here that they know the right person to come through. They know who is speaking, and I think who to speak, who should speak, who's the best person energetically, where that person in the audience is at to be able to receive a message. And sometimes the ones that we really want to hear from, it's just too painful. So although I've been working with that energy that you've been hearing me talk about, where I'm letting people request who they want to hear from in a one-on-one reading, there's no guarantee that will always work. It's worked every time so far, but I have no doubt at some point somebody will ask for somebody and I'll get somebody else for them, because the spirit world know that they're not ready to hear from the big guns. It's always a process. What is mediumship? It's healing. And the spirit world are never going to damage your healing journey by bringing up things for you that you're not ready to receive. Yeah. So it's always challenging to hold that space. But I actually think if you are sending that spirit away, you are telling your audience that you don't trust the spirit world. You are telling them that, yeah, I don't know what the hell they're doing either. And isn't that just completely the wrong energy to be in? You need to be in a space where you are, I know that this spirit is here, and I know that it's going to make sense to somebody, and holding that. I did a one-on-one reading for somebody once where their grandfather came through and they said no to everything. I've got your grandfather here. No, he does this. No, he does that. No. I can't even remember the evidence, but I just remember all the no's. Don't you though? And she said no to everything. And I got part of the way through the reading and I just went, look, what is it? Is this just completely wrong? Like, why are you saying no to everything? And she said, well, I never met my grandfather, so he wouldn't come through for me, would he? And I was like, what? So can you imagine, for a start, if you are lucky enough to become a mum, and then lucky enough to become a grandmother, and then lucky enough to become a great-grandmother, and then the great-grandmother, the baby's born, it's 2 weeks old, and it's your time to leave, and you go. Are you then just completely disinterested in your great-grandchild because they won't remember you? No, of course not. And when that great-grandchild has a child, are you going to be interested in their children too? Of course you are. Of course you are. So sometimes from spirit, we can get people that we don't necessarily expect to hear from in our lineage. And it's about being evidential with that. So that girl said no to everything, and I explained to her, well, he wants to tell you that he's been around. So I'm going to continue working with him, and then we will get who you want in. And she messaged me a few days later. It might have been a bit longer than that, actually, because it played on my mind. And then, when she emailed 2 weeks later, I was like, And she had checked all the evidence with her mum, and it was all correct. Every single piece of evidence was correct, even though she'd said no to it every time. So you have to trust that. You have to trust it and be in that space where you're willing to have that faith in the spirit world. Because otherwise, what are you saying to them? Come and be with me. Help me to do this. I'm really nervous. Prove to me that you're here. And then they do. And then you say, but that one was wrong. I don't know what you were doing there, but I don't trust that one. And you've got to get past that and be in a space where you can hold your power, but hold your faith. Hold your trust in the spirit world. And that's not easy to do, and that's not going to come overnight. And like I said, they don't come, and I don't get haunted by the people that I sent away when I was learning at the beginning of my journey. They don't pop in and see me at night and pinch me and wake me up and say, "Oi, Macintyre, I really wanted to get a message to my son and you completely messed that up." They don't do that. They understand that it's a journey. They understand that we're all just bloody well doing our best, and they will work with you through the process and learning that you need to have to help your development. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I want to say to you, really. I just really think our work as mediums is about honouring the intelligence of the spirit world and trusting it and not feeling like we need to control it. And that is across the board. That's in when you hear people say, "I only want to work with high vibrational spirits, please." What, because there is such a thing as low vibrational spirits, and the spirit world were going to send you a version of your grandma that was all bright and shiny, but because you didn't ask for high vibe, they're going to send you in low vibe, miserable granny version, or anything where we just feel that need to control and manipulate. It's just such a problem in mediumship and from spiritual people. And it's about you. If you feel the need to control it, you're getting it wrong. I really feel that deeply. I really deeply. And spirit are very respectful. One of the main questions I get asked when I finish demonstrating is, do they leave you alone? How do you switch off? And I always find it really hard to answer, because I'm calling them, I'm opening up to them. The spirit world are always here. They're around us all the time. They're with you right now in your mundane life, whatever you're doing right now, listening to this podcast. The spirit world has stood beside you. They're with you, and they're within you. Don't forget, you are a spirit too, and they know whether I'm working or whether I'm not. And unless it's an emergency situation, they're not going to bother me. And when I first started working with spirit, and my first teacher, who taught me so much, that was brilliant and stuff that I have outgrown. One of the things was, you need to protect yourself. You need to create a pyramid of bright white light around you. You need to ask the archangel to protect this space. And when I was in that mindset, I used to feel, is there anyone there? Is there anyone there? And of course, then I would feel people there because they're always with us. So if you're seeking, you will feel it. But if you're not seeking, you won't, because that's how most of us go around our lives all the time. Yeah, the need to control and manipulate is understandable, I think, because it's so difficult, but also something that we should be striving to overcome. And I'm not saying that I've got this 100% right, because you guys know I'm still learning. I'll still get in the way. I still get a bit of evidence that I decide to interpret and mess it up and feel frustrated with myself. I still get those moments where I feel like I have to give instruction to Spirit. Spirit are just complete love. They're not there going, oh God, Hannah's bossing us around again, screw her. They'll just do it because they love me. They love everybody. They want us all to be good. But it's just about striving where you can to not do it is the key. The hard key, but it is the key. So if you're developing and you do a reading for somebody and they say they don't understand who you're talking to, just say, okay, I get that, but I'm going to finish working with them first, and then you can request who you want to work with, because I know this spirit has come in for a reason, and I trust in the spirit world. So let's find out what that reason is. And if you're stood in front of an audience, just show them your power and your confidence in the spirit world, because then they're going to have that belief in you, just like you believe in spirit, and that will give you so much of a better energy to work in, and you will find everything just moves so much more clearly and high vibrationally and better. So there we go. What a roller coaster it all is, eh? Always learning, always growing, always hoping to be better. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. As always, it'd be so great if you could leave me a review, share it. These things, I know they're so boring, but they really help. And if you've got a question, email it to me. Please don't comment it on my Facebook page, because I get so many comments, I can't keep up with them. But just email me, podcast@hannahmedium.co.uk. Thank you so much for listening.